Hey everybody, this is Bill. I'm the salty old Marine. Today I want to take a deep dive, or a somewhat deep dive, into something we call the 38 CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations. What is it? And why does it matter to your VA disability claim? Let's dig into it. So, when a veteran files a VA disability claim, the VA has a set of rules that they're going to assign a rating on. Now, I'm going to make an assumption here. The VA's disability claims process basically has two parts. The first part is getting service connected. That is to say, the VA agrees that your current disability is related to your military service in some way, either primarily, secondarily, through the PACT Act presumptives, some other way. But there's a service connection. So that's the first part of VA disability. The second part of VA disability is determining what the percentage rating is going to be for that service-connected disability. So in other words, it's one thing to say you're service-connected for tinnitus. It's another thing to say, how much money do I get? What's my rating? Okay, let's break that down. The ratings come in percentages, 10%, 30%, 50%, 70%, 100%. With those ratings comes more money at the minimum. So there are other advantages to getting higher ratings as well. We talk about that in some other videos. But primarily right now, we're just going to talk about the difference percentages mean in money. Higher the rating, the more money you get every month tax-free from the VA. The question is, and what we're going to talk about here is, how does the VA come up with that percentage? What is that? How do they do that? They do that with the 38 CFR. There's going to be a link in the description. I'm going to post some little screenshots somewhere here on the screen. Not sure where it comes out. And we're going to talk about some of those things, right? So the 38 CFR basically is a listing for every possible condition you can think of. They're called DCs, or Diagnostic Codes. They're little 4-digit numbers. And they say what the ratings are in percentages for that particular DC, or Diagnostic Code. So, for example, if you're seeking a claim for tinnitus, we're using that because it's very simple. With tinnitus, if you are diagnosed with tinnitus and it is service-connected, meaning the VA agrees that it's related to your active duty military service, then they're going to look in the 38 CFR. I don't know which side it's going to show up on. I'll tell you what, I'll lean way over here, and then in post, I'm going to pop it up here, I hope. All right, so hopefully you're looking at that right now. And what it is basically what the requirements are for a 10% disability. So you can read through that. I'll put a link in the description as well. Now, that tells you how the VA comes up with that particular rating. It's going to be the same for anything else you might file a claim for. So for migraines or GERD or IBS or PTSD or anything else, the rating criteria for the various percentages will be listed in the 38 CFR. So why is that important? Well, for one thing, it satisfies curiosity, because very often I do hear the question of, how much am I going to get? Okay, well, that's where you're going to find out how much you're going to get. It's going to list all the ranges, the different percentages, and what the requirements are. But it's also of vital importance to you as the veteran who is filing for disability to know what those requirements are for each percentage when you file the claim. Because no matter how much you want to talk about how this disability affects you, if it is not one of the requirements in the 38 CFR, you're shouting into the wind. You're telling the VA things that they don't care about. That is a really hard thing to say, and it's a hard thing to hear. And I'm going to tell you this, and I understand it, right? I'm not criticizing. But I know a lot of veterans who cannot stop talking about how they were treated in the military. They don't have any medical records because their first sergeant was a so-and-so and said this and that and did those things and this things, and it was hard and it was awful and they were treated badly. And you know what? It's all true. I don't deny any of it, and the VA does not care at all. You put that in your claim, okay, fine. Don't think it's going to get you a rating. It's not. Hard, honest, simple truth. The VA doesn't care. You put it in your claim, it's not going to help you at all. We're not talking about sympathy here. The VA uses the 38 CFR. You look up the 38 CFR for the disability that you are claiming. You read the paragraph. It's a paragraph. It's not like a book. And you understand it carefully. You make sure that it makes sense to you. If it's in more legalese and it doesn't quite make sense, okay, cut and paste and feed it into ChatGPT and say, break this down for me like I was 5. Trust me, I've done it, okay? ChatGPT is actually kind of good at that. So what it's going to tell you is, if you want a 70% rating for PTSD, you have to have bing, 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 and it's going to list them as bullet points, right? When you file your claim, you must talk about those things. If you want that 70% rating, or the 50% rating, or the 30% rating, be honest, be truthful. Don't exaggerate your symptoms. That's not what I'm encouraging anybody to do. What I'm telling you is, in order to get a certain percentage rating, you have to give the VA what they want to see. And I want to make this about as simple as I can. When you file a claim, and that information is present, when you go to a C&P exam, that examiner, I'm just going to say this, controversial maybe, that examiner is more interested in filling out the little boxes than anything else. Excuse me. That examiner is checkmarking boxes. You say X, Y, Z, they click X, Y, and Z. They're going to read your claim. They're going to read your documentation. That's what they're looking for. Give it to them. The rater is going to look at what the reviewer said, the C&P examiner or the ACE reviewer. They're going to look at that DBQ. They're going to look at that medical opinion. They're going to see what boxes have been checked, and they're going to match it against the 38 CFR. That's it. That's how it works. You won't get a rating based on how your first sergeant treated you. You won't. It doesn't matter to them. Is your story important? Absolutely. You bet it is. I care. The VA does not for disability. Put that in a box. Put it aside. Look at the 38 CFR. Read it carefully. Make certain that you understand it. Talk to that. When you make your claim, in your personal statement, in your documentation, when you go to your C&P exam, you talk about those things. Be honest. Don't exaggerate. Definitely don't commit fraud. But make sure you hit every single point that's in the rating that most closely matches your symptoms. That's why you need to understand the 38 CFR. I hope that that's been useful to you. I'm Bill. I'm the Salty Old Marine. Please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. And as always, have a great day.